mouth breather. A couple of years ago, the YouTuber DarkMatter252525, I said 25 three times there. There's only two of them. DarkMatter2525. He is a YouTuber who talks about atheism and theology and pokes holes in the logic behind religious concepts. And I'm recording this video today in direct response to a video that he made a couple of years ago. The title of the video is "Why Does Anything Matter?" And based on that title, I could not remember what the video was about until I went back and watched it again. And once I watched it again, I immediately recognized it. As I posted in a comment, the satire in that video was somewhat effective, but it was an absolutely horrifying take on it, which was just completely disgusting to view, and I cannot honestly recommend anybody go see it, but it does bring up an interesting point. So I wanted to address that point in a different way, because he went the route of a thoroughly horrible analogy and made his point very memorably, but not very pleasantly. And so I wanted to get to it more directly. So the point of this video was the question. Basically, why is life worth anything if it ever ends? If you can't have eternal life in heaven, why should you exist on this mortal coil if you can't continue existing beyond this mortal coil? And I have an interesting take on that based on my own life philosophies, which I've worked out over time, and so I wanted to present that as sort of a halfway meeting for people who are wanting to break away from their theology, but they still feel that way. They still have this sense that temporary existence is somehow insufficient. So here's my perspective on that. I value my life very highly, but I am also deeply disturbed by its transient nature, and the way that I cope with that, the myth that I tell myself in order to be able to deal with the fact that time is constantly sort of stealing my life away and stealing my memories away and removing my past from me and thrusting me into a future that I don't know what to do with. So my thought on that is based on my conception of time, which is that basically on the basis of some scientific evidence and some science fiction that I've read and various other sources, I've come up with the idea that time is effectively a circle or possibly a spiral, some sort of repetitious pattern, and when we're done living this life, actually back up, the circle or spiral is not accurate. It might seem that way to our subjective experience, possibly, but what's ultimately really going on is time. So scientifically, time is a fourth dimension in space-time, which is both time and space simultaneously. So, and I'm taking physicists at their word, which is not always something that I'm willing to do. So they say that this is the correct interpretation of various equations that mathematically work out based on God knows what information they get out of their cyclotons and whatever. So I'm not smart enough to say conclusively that they're wrong, but I am not certain that we should believe them all that much more than we believe priests who say that they're interpreting the Bible correctly. It seems like it's all just one of them is explicitly made up. The other one claims to have a basis, but if we can't fully understand why that basis works, then I don't know that we should trust it. Anyway, so based on all of that information, we have the concept that time is a solid, essentially. The analogy that sort of makes sense of it is if you imagine a film reel back when, before everything was digital, the technology of film reel used to be a bunch of still photographs, each one slightly different than the one that before it. And so you would have this long strip of still photographs, and by flashing them on a screen fast enough, they would create the illusion of movement. So if you look at one individual scene, one individual shot, that's like a moment in time, and so the entire film reel exists, but time is the illusion created by only looking at one frame at a time. So that's the quick and dirty way of how to make sense of that theory of time. There's a video on Wisecrack that discusses this, but I don't want to turn this into nothing but a link farm, so let's move on from that. So based on the perception that time is this solid, and that it is only our perception that moves through a defined shape of time, which is, our entire life. It's not that we have no free will, it's that all of our choices have already been made by the future version of us at the moment that we arrive, based on whatever information we have at that time. So it's not that there's no free will, it's that the free will, tomorrow I will find out what I used my free will for tomorrow. And that doesn't mean that I didn't actually make a choice. It just meant that tomorrow, the version of me that exists in tomorrow, made the choice tomorrow based on his perception, which was different from mine because he's had experiences that I haven't had yet. But anyway, so why does existence matter if it's temporary? Well, my perspective on that is, I have lived this life, and I believe that I have ownership of the life that I lived. I believe that the moments of my experience cannot be taken away from me, except that it is unethical if there is a being that consciously chooses to make me forget my past, then that being is stealing from me, because I should retain those memories of those experiences that I went through, or otherwise why did I go through them? Many events in my past are now lost to memory, and I have no real sense that those things actually happened, even if I have artifacts that prove that they did. The fact that I can't remember them effectively means that they are erased from existence. They are aspects of myself which have been taken away and which I cannot get back. So that is a problem to me. So the concept that life will someday end is not the part that bothers me. The part that bothers me is the idea that existence can be retroactively erased. So this theory I have that time is this solid, and when I get to the end of my life, I'm inclined to believe that I will go back and live it over again from the beginning, possibly with some changes. That's why I say time could either be a circle in which you do the same thing over and over and over again exactly, or it could be like a spiral where after you have one loop, you then have a second loop which is extremely similar to the first but can diverge in some ways. So the spiral model has the possibility of some degree of free will and some degree of change, but is still largely repetitive. So that's kind of the one that I tend to prefer. Not to mention that the spiral of time is used in a sci-fi show called Lex that I'm quite fond of. But anyway, if I had the ability to choose what kind of an afterlife I want, I certainly would not want the Christian afterlife of just existence continues into the future. Well, no, that's not Christian. That's a number of afterlife conceptions, including the D&D one, among others. If existence just continues into some other dimension, then what's the point of Earth if you exist on Earth for 100 years and then you go to heaven for 10,000 million billion trillion years? What was the point of Earth? Why did we need Earth? So I don't believe in that eternal afterlife. So my vision of a better afterlife would be that circular or spiral pattern of getting to live life again and getting to continue experiencing past and future experiences and continuing to have ownership of life. So in answer to the weird question of the weirdly titled and really unpleasant to watch Dark Matter video, I don't mean to be trashing the guy. I like his channel a lot. It's just this one video was just really strange artistic direction that was very much not to my taste. I recommend the channel highly, especially the Power Corrupts series, which is one of the big things that he does. That's really good on a lot of levels. But this one video was just really strange and unpleasant. So my answer to the why does anything matter question basically is we don't need to keep our life going forever in order for it to have meaning. We just need to be able to get it back after it's taken away from us. We need to experience. We need to have our moments of experience not be transient and fleeting and temporary and vanish into nothingness. They should come back to us, and there should be some sort of framework within which that happens. So if there's to be any sort of divine oversight to the universe, that's the direction that I think that we would need to go in.